this is probably the best summary of the link between habits and beliefs, which is every action you take is like a vote for the type of person you want to become. And if you really want something to stick, you need to look at yourself in that way. And so, like the real goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to write a book. The goal is to become a writer. And once you start to look at yourself through that new lens, it becomes easier to stick with the habit in the long run. And so I think this is one of the reasons why small habits can truly matter so much, because they know doing one push-up does not transform your body overnight, but it does cast a vote for I'm the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. And no, writing one sentence does not mean your book is finished, but it does cast a vote for I'm a writer. And so, and even those small actions, they reinforce that desired identity. And ultimately, once you start to look at yourself in a new way, then it becomes much easier to stick with the habit in the long run. So I think really, if you can get to that identity change and build up evidence of being the kind of person you want to be, then you can really start to latch onto it and it sticks much easier. Roughly speaking, we can divide a habit into 4 different stages. And I think if you understand these 4 stages, then you understand not only how a habit works, but you also understand what you can do or where you can intervene to change it. So 4 stages are cue, craving, response, and reward. Cue, craving, response, and reward. So you walk into a kitchen and you see a plate of cookies on the counter. That's a cue, a visual cue that gets your attention and starts the habit of eating a cookie. And so that's the role of the first stage, the cue. It gets your attention. So it could be a visual cue, like the cookies on the counter. You could be driving down the road and you hear an ambulance behind you, and it's the siren that starts the habit of pulling to the side of the road. Or you could have your phone buzz in your pocket, and that's like a physical or a tactile cue that starts the habit of checking your phone. So the cue gets your attention. The second step is the craving. Now, sometimes we say craving with habits, like I'm craving a donut or I'm craving a cigarette or something like that. But I mean it in an even more broad sense, in the sense of like you feel motivated to do it, to take an action. And the craving is determined by what your prediction, basically. When it's another word we could use for that stage. We could say that there's a cue and then there's a prediction. So for example, you see the cookies on the counter, cue, and then you make a prediction about, oh, those will be sweet, sugary, tasty, enjoyable. And it's actually the prediction that the cookie is going to be tasty that motivates you to perform the third step, which is the response. You walk over, you pick it up, you take a bite. And then finally, there's the 4th stage, which is the reward. And so the cookie is, in fact, sweet, sugary, tasty, enjoyable. Now, not every experience in life is rewarding. But if sometimes things are neutral, sometimes there's a consequence or a cost to the behavior. But if a behavior is not rewarding, if it's not pleasurable or enjoyable or satisfying in some sense, it's unlikely to become a habit because you don't have a reason to repeat the behavior in the future. Now, once you have those 4 stages, so that's the understanding of it, now we can talk about where to intervene. So from those 4 stages, we can come up with what I call the 4 laws of behavior change. And so there's 1 for each stage. And the rough idea here is that if you want a good habit to stick, if you want a habit to last for a long time, you really need 4 things to kind of happen. And you don't always have to have all 4, but the more of them you have, the more likely it is you're going to stick with it. So the first thing is you want it to be obvious. You want the cues of your good habits to be obvious, available, visible, easy to see. The easier it is to catch your attention, the more likely you are to do it. The second thing is you want it to be attractive. The more attractive and appealing a habit is, the more you're going to feel motivated to, yeah, I want to do that thing. It seems appealing to me. The third thing is you want it to be easy. The easier, simpler, more convenient, frictionless a habit is, the more likely you are to perform it. And then the fourth and final one is you want it to be satisfying. The more satisfying and enjoyable a habit is, the more likely you are to follow through and repeat it in the future. And so those 4 things, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. They give you kind of a high level view, a framework, a playbook for how to adjust a habit, for where to intervene. And I just want to make one more final note on this. So we've kind of covered a lot there with those 4 stages. But so you've got those 4 that help you build a good habit. If you want to break a bad habit, then you just invert. each of those four. So rather than making it obvious, you want to make the cues invisible, hide them, be less likely to be seen. Rather than making it attractive, make it unattractive. Rather than making it easy, make it difficult. Add steps, increase friction. Rather than making it satisfying, make it unsatisfying. Add a consequence, have an immediate cost to the behavior. So that's kind of the broad view of those four stages: cue, craving, response, and reward, and the four steps, the four laws of how to intervene and where to adjust those.